The Gulf monarchies are getting a facelift. Gone are the days of chain-smoking kings in white robes quietly managing oil wealth from palaces in the desert. Today's rulers, Mohammed bin Salman, Mohammed bin Zayed, and Tamim bin Hamad, are younger, media-savvy, and obsessed with the future. They talk about AI, space programs, and sustainability like they're pitching a startup, except their startup is a country. While all three are racing to reinvent their nations before the oil runs dry, only one seems like it might actually pull it off. Spoiler, it's the UAE. The Gulf monarchies have always shared a strange paradox, ancient traditions wrapped around cutting-edge modernity. But this new generation of leaders isn't content with just being rich. They want to be relevant. They want their countries to matter in a post-oil world, to host the world's conferences, dominate global finance, and maybe even colonize Mars. That's the spirit behind a trilogy of grand national visions: Saudi Vision 2030, Qatar National Vision 2030, and the UAE's We the UAE 2031. Each one is a roadmap to survive the end of the oil age, but each leader is approaching it differently, like three rival CEOs in the same industry trying to sell different versions of the same dream. Let's start with the loudest of them all, Mohammed bin Salman, or as the internet knows him, MBS. Back in 2016, he launched Saudi Vision 2030, a sweeping plan built on three pillars. 1. A vibrant society, 2. A thriving economy, and 3. An ambitious nation. If that sounds vague, it is, but the intent is revolutionary. Vision 2030 is about nothing less than rewiring Saudi Arabia, a kingdom that's long been synonymous with conservative religious rule, oil dependence, and social stagnation. MBS wants to change all that, and fast. He's lifting restrictions on women, building entire new megacities from scratch, and introducing entertainment sectors that once would have been unthinkable decades ago. Concerts, cinemas, and raves, things that once got you arrested, are now part of state policy. He's also trying to diversify the economy to turn the desert kingdom into a hub of logistics, tourism, and manufacturing. And beneath it all is a campaign of national identity building, pushing pride in being Saudi, not just Muslim. That might sound ordinary, but for Saudi Arabia it's an ideological earthquake. The country that once exported Wahhabism now exports Formula One events and anime conventions. It's like watching Varg Vikernes suddenly becoming an immigrant rights activist. Fascinating, ambitious, and slightly confusing. But there's a catch. Saudi Arabia is huge, over 30 million people, and its economy still leans heavily on oil revenues. For all the flashy announcements, NEOM is still sand and PowerPoint slides. The deeper transformation, the one that reaches every Saudi household, is much harder. And because the whole thing is top-down, it depends entirely on MBS's momentum. If he stumbles, the machine stops. Saudi Arabia is trying to sprint through a marathon, and while it's impressive, it's also exhausting to watch. Next up is Qatar, the small state with the loudest megaphone. Qatar's National Vision 2030 actually predates the others. It was launched back in 2008 under Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa, long before the Gulf's vision craze began. It's based around four pillars: human development, social development, economic development, and environmental development. Unlike Saudi Arabia's revolutionary approach, Qatar's vision is incremental. There's no radical social engineering and no megacities rising from the dunes. The pressure just isn't the same. That's partly because Qatar's already absurdly wealthy. Thanks to its LNG exports, it boasts one of the highest per capita incomes on Earth. The state doesn't need to panic about diversification. It's already diversified enough to relax. Instead, Qatar focuses on education and knowledge, pouring billions into universities, research centers, and think tanks. It wants to produce ideas, not just hydrocarbons. The country also invests heavily in social cohesion, keeping its small citizen population united and content. And that's easier when you've only got a few 100,000 citizens to please. Add in its vast LNG reserves and instruments of soft power like Al Jazeera, and Qatar has carved out a global presence far beyond its size. If Saudi Arabia is trying to reinvent itself, Qatar is trying to refine itself. Its reforms are quieter but more sustainable, a slow burn instead of a controlled explosion. That said, Qatar's size is both its strength and its limit. It can punch above its weight in diplomacy or sports, but it will never be a regional economic giant. Its future is secure, but not transformative. And then there's the United Arab Emirates, the sleek, confident middle child of the Gulf family. Under President Mohammed bin Zayed, the UAE launched We the UAE 2031 in November 2022, a follow-up to its earlier vision plans. It's organized around four forwards: forward society, forward economy, forward diplomacy, and forward ecosystem. And if that sounds like something a tech company would print on a banner at a leadership summit, that's exactly the point. The UAE's message is clear. It's not just catching up to the future, it's building it. Unlike Saudi Arabia or Qatar, the UAE already has most of the pieces in place. Its economy is diversified, its cities are cosmopolitan, and its society, by regional standards, is remarkably liberal. This gives MBZ the freedom to focus on future-proofing rather than reinventing. The country's goals are ambitious but coherent. Foster a cohesive and inclusive society, dominate the digital economy, lead in energy innovation, champion global sustainability, and maintain a dynamic, agile government, one, in their words, capable of achieving the impossible. And the thing is, the UAE has been quietly doing this for 2 decades. Dubai became a global business hub. Abu Dhabi turned itself into a clean energy investor. The UAE went to Mars. It built a space agency, a nuclear plant, and one of the most diversified economies in the Middle East, all before 2031 even started. Where others are still writing roadmaps, the UAE is already halfway down the road. So how do these three stack up? Saudi Arabia is the revolutionary, dramatic, unpredictable, and determined to rewrite its destiny. But revolutions are messy. If Vision 2030 succeeds, it'll redefine what an Arab state can be. If it fails, it'll be remembered as the world's most expensive midlife crisis. Qatar is the quiet achiever. It already has wealth, stability, and global finance. It doesn't need to change, it just needs to sustain. But because it's so small, its model isn't replicable. It's a boutique strategy, not a blueprint. And lastly, we have the UAE. The UAE is the pragmatic visionary. It's not trying to reinvent society overnight. It's trying to keep innovation institutionalized, to make adaptation part of its national DNA. That's why We the UAE 2031 feels less like a slogan and more like a mission statement for a company that happens to own 7 cities and a space program. MBZ isn't trying to dazzle, he's trying to outlast. Here's the key difference. The UAE's success doesn't depend on a single man. MBZ is powerful, yes, but the country's governance is already highly technocratic. Ministers, advisors, and semi-autonomous emirates all function like parts of a machine, one built to run without total central control. Saudi Arabia, by contrast, is hyper-centralized. Everything funnels through MBS. If he falters, so too does Vision 2030. Qatar, meanwhile, is insulated by its wealth but limited by its scale. The UAE's advantage lies in its structure. Small enough to move fast, diverse enough to sustain shocks, and ambitious enough to think globally. It also managed to balance liberalization with control. Emiratis enjoy more social freedom, but the state still maintains stability. There's no illusion of democracy, but there's a sense of progress. It's a model that works, not because it's free, but because it's functional. And while MBS dreams of megacities and Tamim dreams of global soft power, MBZ is quietly building a system, one that can adapt to whatever the 21st century throws at it. That's the difference between a vision and a strategy. Collectively, these three rulers represent something bigger, a generational shift in Gulf politics. They're pragmatic, post-ideological, and tech-driven. They talk less about Islam or Arab unity and more about innovation ecosystems and future economies. They've replaced religion with reform as the source of legitimacy. It's not divine right, it's developmental right. You stay in power because you deliver results. And in a region where stagnation used to be the norm, that's a remarkable change. By 2030, the Gulf will look very different. Saudi Arabia may be more open, more dynamic, or more brittle. Qatar will still be rich, still cautious, and still Al Jazeera-ing. And the UAE, if things go to plan, will be the model others study. Because We the UAE 2031 isn't just a national plan, it's a statement of intent. A declaration that in a world obsessed with crises and collapses, one small federation of monarchies intends to stay ahead of the future. And in the end, maybe that's the real secret. While others dream of transformation, the UAE is building endurance. The 20th century belonged to the oil states. The 21st might belong to the ones smart enough to survive without it.